Want awesome tabletop games delivered right to your door? Sign up now for Gamebox Monthly. Learn more at GameboxMonthly.com.
Hello and welcome to Elaborate. Yes, let's talk about it indeed. As always, I am your host, Jake Lloyd. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're about 2.5 months into this now. We're learning, we're growing, we're doing it together, and that's what's important. Thank you to those of you who have left iTunes reviews. Please keep leaving iTunes reviews. They're crucial. This week, I'm sitting down with incredibly talented writer, actor, improviser, and co-host of the Mythunderstood podcast on this very podcast network. It's Sarah Oliver. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Jake.
How's everything?
Oh, it's going great.
It's going great. Thanks for sitting with me.
Thank you for letting me sit here on your beautiful denim couch.
Yeah, my couch is. Yeah, I know. I don't think I've ever really painted the picture of the Dragon Wagon radio studio, so to speak. It's a very quaint living room in Burbank, California, with rich gray walls and blue denim couches for some reason.
It's gorgeous.
Listen, it's practical. It's a practical couch.
Hey, you don't have to explain your denim couches to me, man. I'm happy to be here.
You're on Team Denim Couch.
Oh yeah, I love a Canadian tuxedo couch.
They are, yeah. My couches their names are Jay and Leno. Yeah. So Sarah, you are really one of the people that I've known in LA the longest. The first time that we met was working on an indie mogul short for Backyard Effects.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it the Harry Potter one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
is that really when we met?
I'm pretty sure that was when we met.
Wow.
Because I didn't know, I knew of you, but I didn't know you. We never met.
Yeah.
And so we used to be, for some, here, we'll give a little bit of backstory for potential listeners. You and I were part of what I like to call the Backyard Effects D team. we were the people who, when the primary people involved were like, oh, we don't want to do this, or we're too lazy, or we're too whatever, and they were like, hey, Jake will do it. Let's get Jake to do it. And then that's anything that was either a time crunch, they would hand off to me, and I did it with a smile. Of course, I was glad to obviously just help and be a part of it in any shape or form. And yeah, they needed to get this Harry Potter theme short done in 2 days. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll do it. And I had this prop from a movie that I had built previously. That's this mythical looking door. So I was like, oh, we'll use that and I just wrote the whole thing in an afternoon, in an evening, just to make a big SFX heavy thing.
Paul will forever be better than we did yours.
Because
we wrote one.
You and Paul, now again, I didn't know you guys at this time.
Yeah. No, I think as close as you two are now, it's the one thing he'll take to the grave.
Right? Is that yeah? Because here's the thing too: is I never saw that. Do you know what I mean? And it was just a thing of hey, you want to do something?
You did your thing, and that it was awesome because we got to meet you, and we had fun.
Yeah, I will say this, if you don't mind me saying so, being transparent. You and I have had sort of a up and down relationship. We I love you to death, but we don't always see eye to eye, and I don't know why.
Especially years ago, I feel
sure
for me, there was a turning point, in the past year or two, where I was just yeah, I do like this Jake Lloyd.
Oh, so okay, so you're admitting you did not like me for a while.
No,
but that's fine.
I agree to the up and down thing of
and it's weird. Do you want to know what it is? I feel and I'll own this. I'll own this to a T. I feel I do not accept new people, blanketly. So if there's a group of 20 people that I meet, I'm okay, that's my one person, that's 20 people. And I think I met you in a group of a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And in my defense, I think the first night that I actually had of this is Sarah experience where we really had spent the night together with a group of people, I'm pretty sure you got obliterated at Brass Monkey. And I think that was sort of my first introduction to you. So it might not have been you at your best. I could be wrong. Am I an asshole for saying that?
No, I mean...
Do you remember this at all?
I remember going to Brass Monkey with you a couple times.
Yeah. I think it was the very first time. It was somebody's birthday party.
Sure.
And I remember you being oh, you and Paul should be friends because you guys like wrestling. It was that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where you were
and boy, was I right.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, you're
matchmaker.
You really are. You're like my best friend matchmaker.
Yeah.
Who else you got out there? Who else should I meet? Why can't you help me with women? What's your problem? No. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know. Like we didn't necessarily like hit it off at first.
Yeah.
I think we both get each other.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, there are times where we just are not on the same page.
That's all right.
Is that honest?
Yeah.
Is that a fair comparison?
I also think that's fine. Like
Yeah,
you're being like your honest self if you're not like always agreeable and like yes.
Precisely. And if anything, like some people I have been told, some people like, oh, the reason why you and Sarah sometimes clash heads is because you guys are very similar. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Because I say that about other people. I say that about people in my family where I'm like, oh, this person and this person don't get along because they're the exact same person and they have maybe the same flaws. Not to like diagnose you with my problems, but
no, what medication should I take?
Right. But you get what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
will you admit that we're both very stubborn?
Sure. I mean, I will say, I feel like in the past 2 years, I've just like really zen the fuck out too.
Really?
So that's
Okay.
probably, yeah.
So you saying that you felt a change in yourself?
Oh yeah. Like I don't. Especially, I feel like if anyone you meet in the film community, they're sometimes, unfortunately, like I was a big person of like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to just like automatically assume sexism and stuff. But
That kind
like,
of stuff, right.
I have felt like there's going to be a pushback if you're like a very opinionated female.
Sure. Yeah.
And so when you feel that pushback right away, you're just like, okay, fuck you. I'm going to push even harder.
Sure.
And I no longer feel that way.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely. I mean, I would never ever consider Sarah Oliver a pushover. So I could see that though. Not that you've become a pushover, but yeah, you've. I think that just comes with aging. Like
right.
we
Yeah.
just chill the fuck
need
out.
to be
Self-righteous.
right, and to power through the stuff, even if it's healthy or not. Yeah.
Right.
That just kind of dissipates. You're like,
Right.
I can
Yeah,
figure
and
this
that could
out.
be why you and I both chilled out. But the thing that's interesting, though, about our roller coaster of a history is that, like, I have a vivid memory of there being a time where I was like, you're the only person I want to speak to about certain things.
Mhm.
For example, a girl that I dated
Yeah.
that was a friend of yours that, when there were hard times, like, you were always there for me. And I was always like, I knew that I could speak to you because it's that hard thing of like, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you sort of feel like their friends get a better representation of how they're feeling than you do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like, so I remember reaching out to you when things were not great or when like she was doing something that I felt was inappropriate or vice versa, or if I felt guilty, whatever it was. And I remember like you were one of the only people that I could have like an honest conversation with because you weren't one of those like, oh, I am her friend, so fuck you sort of personalities.
Yeah.
Like some people are like that where you can't, like they're going to take the side of the person that they knew longer, that sort of thing,
Right,
or the person
yeah.
they're closer with. And I mean, this was when we were probably at our most like,
Oddsiest.
yeah. Or what's the trait? What is the common cliche? Oil and water? No, water and vinegar. What's the two things?
Oil and water.
Oil and yeah. Like you and I are definitely oil and water for quite a while. And it was weird because I feel like this was at the most of that. We would have long Facebook conversations.
Yeah.
Hell, was AIM a thing then? No, I think it was post AIM. I think it was all Facebook.
I've never had AIM.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Mrs.
No.
Fancy.
It's because I grew up in the country and I had dial-up until I was 19 years old. I never had it. It took me half an hour to check an email.
We're gonna touch on that after this maybe. But I just wanted to say, like, it's weird because as much as you and I have maybe butted heads in the past and maybe not like been, super, super, super tight, in those instances, it was like you were like my favorite person. And I appreciated that because, again, I wasn't getting those conversations from other people. I wasn't getting those sort of like, hey, this is what I think. This is what I think is happening. I even remember an instance, I'll never forget this, where I think I might have been with Paul, maybe. And I was in Target. The aforementioned ex-girlfriend was doing something that was acting out. She was doing something in a way that was very public, and I wasn't aware of it. And you were. And apparently you assumed that I was aware of it because she was doing something public. And I got a phone call from you, and I could count on one hand how many phone calls I've gotten from Sarah Oliver. Not to say that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're not call each other sort of friends. And I got a phone call when I'm in Target, and the first words from you were like, I just want to let you know, Jake, we're all on your side. And I was like, what's happening? It was so serious. Do you remember this?
I'm trying to remember the specifics of what it is.
It was the night before Paul's murder mystery party. So
Right.
our mutual friend Paul of Mythunderstood and of this
Yeah.
program, he threw this amazing murder mystery party. And not just in the sake of the actual written party, there was also some drama surrounding the party. So she was acting out in some semblance of like, you know.
And I know from the sound of that, it sounds like I am somebody that likes to get involved with people's business. I do not.
No,
yeah.
it wasn't that.
Yeah, like if I was reaching out to you on her behalf, then it was because I thought it was for the good of her as well. Of like,
and that's the thing is
this
you,
needs to be.
Yeah, you weren't reaching out even on her behalf. It was actually, you were like, we're not even dealing with this anymore. It was you pretty much being like, Jake, even though maybe you're in a really weird like situation, that we've got your back. And I just remember like being very blown away and I kind of got like emotional in Target because I was like, oh, like Sarah likes me after all. Like they're on my side. Anyways, I feel like they're also a part of our like sometimes butting heads thing is that we are like the friend and the lover of the same person. Does that make sense?
You're the lover, right?
I think I'm the lover.
Yeah.
Because like you and I are both best friends with the same person, with Paul Bianchi. And so I feel like there are some times where it's like, oh, you're the other best friend. And
I don't feel that way though.
You don't feel that way?
When Paul was telling me how close you guys have gotten like the last year and so I was just like, that's awesome because
it's not like a individual jealousy or anything like that. It's just that very sort of cliche thing of like, there's something about your like boyfriend's best friend or your girlfriend's best friend that always just inherently like you get bugged by it. Am I not?
Yeah, I think that might be one-sided.
Really? Damn it. No, I feel like an asshole.
That's okay.
No, but I don't know.
To me, like since the beginning of my friendship with Paul 8 years ago now, I was like, well, there will be a time where a girlfriend will come into the picture, and you know, I'm gonna have to like allow him to spend all this time and da da da. And so I was like always prepared for that, and sure, that time has not come yet, but it has with you. So you're the girlfriend I've already made room for in my heart.
Oh man, it's sad because it's so true. It's so accurate, but I don't know, Sarah. I feel like the tension that has been there in the past, you know, because it's been now. I'm trying to do the math. It's probably been 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2010 was when So it's been coming, 7.5 years that we've known each other, and that's try to think of who you were 7.5 years ago and who I were. Like, I think we were just very stubborn, young, dumb people who were probably too similar to, you know what I mean, to admit when we were both being idiots or something like that. Maybe you agree. I
agree.
Okay, good. So otherwise, I feel like an asshole. With that said, you touched upon something that I do find kind of interesting because I've never experienced it, and that is that you have a male best friend, and I think that, and I don't need to tell you this, there are so many like stigmas and sort of stereotypes that get put on that relationship.
Yeah.
What are your experiences with that? Have you had things like where guys are like, oh, who's this Paul guy around?
Literally every single person except for the person I'm dating now.
Right.
Every single boyfriend I've ever had has been like, well, he's in love with you.
Right.
Or he's gay. And I'm like, well, that's very flattering that those are the two options.
Right.
Actually, it's not flattering.
No,
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I have a brain.
Right.
I have opinions. I have like everything to offer a person in a friendship that someone else with a penis does.
Right.
And that it does become, at first you're like, okay, haha, you just don't get it. And then it's like, no, I do have value past my sex.
Right.
I do have value.
Oh, okay. So for clarification, what you're saying is like people are like, oh, he's only friends with you because he's interested in you in a romantic sense.
Every fucking time we meet a new group of people.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is crazy. It's so crazy.
It's interesting to me that you and I have the past we did, and that was the thing that I never thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the thing that I never thought. I never was like, oh, Paul,
it's like, to this day still, I meet people.
Right.
And even other females don't get it. And it's like, there's a lot of Facebook male feminists, but you don't meet them in real life when it comes to like the simple idea that just two people of the opposite gender can hang out.
Yeah.
And I mean, and
you guys are very close friends. Like,
there was a time a few years ago where we would hang out literally every single day, and he'd be in my bedroom until 2 a.m. just watching like old Homeland episodes, marathoning. It was just like, okay, bye.
Right.
We've never kissed. We've never done anything. And that's like, we love each other so much as friends.
Do you guys consider yourself like siblings in that sense?
don't.
I know
think
it's like
so.
I know it's like an old trope, you know, that like, oh, he's more like my brother, that kind of thing.
No, because
No?
I don't even
why
need that
qualify it?
qualifier.
'Cause why
Yeah,
qualify?
I don't
You're
need
right.
it.
Sorry. See, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm at least self-aware enough, hopefully, to realize that I am the problem. But right on. Well, with that said, you said that every guy you have had has been a problem. Inversely, have you ever been pulled aside by a girl that's interested in Paul or anything like that?
Well, there is a certain person
Okay, dish.
who was also really good friends with him for a long time
Right.
that I think liked me, but also really saw me as like a threat because she
right.
has feelings for him.
Oh, gotcha.
And I don't think a romantic threat, but just any kind of an attention threat.
And that's where it's inversely, because maybe her friendship with Paul is predicated on interest in
romance,
him.
yeah.
Despite the fact that it's not reciprocated.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. And I love that. So I should say that I don't think we've mentioned this. You and Paul, if people aren't familiar, are like also writing partners.
Mhm.
You guys have a sketch show called Spooky Serial.
Yeah.
Right?
It's our improv team.
And you guys put on these 2-person shows, which are fantastic. I love that you guys address it in your comedy, which I think is really good, because I think it's super important, because again, I don't have to tell you that people see you on stage and they go, oh, I wonder if these guys are a couple.
Right,
Like, I wonder
right
if
off
that's
the
why
bat,
they perform
yeah.
each other. You guys have a song that is one of my favorite it's one of my favorite pieces of comedy ever. What's the actual name of it?
I don't want to fuck you.
It's called I Don't Want to Fuck You.
Yeah.
And the whole song is just about your relationship with each other. And it's so honest and sincere, and it's so rare that you can find something comedic that comes from such a perfectly true place. I've expressed to you and Paul, like, I want to help you guys
I would love to do that.
record and shoot a music video for it, because I think it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, you guys, I mean, I don't know, you've dealt with it for ages.
Yeah.
The whole like,
and it's so fun to like grow up together, because I did meet Paul when I was freshly 22.
right.
Just moved out here.
Right.
You know, fucking stars in my eyes. He's the
Right.
first friend I made out here.
Right.
And
nice.
how lucky do you get to be like, this first friend that I've
Right.
had, this is gonna like last through everything. And I'm telling you, like, he's been through everything with me.
Yeah.
Through everything.
Yeah. Changing gears a little bit here. So you're a Phoenix person.
No, I am a
Oh.
Sierra Vista person, and that is
What's the
very
difference?
south of Phoenix. That's a border
Oh,
town.
I'm sorry. You know, and I said Phoenix and I meant Arizona.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But so you're an Arizona person.
Yes, I'm an Arizona person. Very, very, very southeast. Tiny town. It's bigger now. They got an Olive Garden. So I remember being in high school and the city council saying, we will never have an Olive Garden here.
Does that come from a place of disdain for Olive Garden, or a disdain for the town itself? Like, we're not good enough, or fuck those Olive Garden people?
Probably it was a split between the city council members. Vista Vista is like attached to an army base.
Okay.
Fort Huachuca. And my dad was Army. I was born in Berlin.
You're born in Berlin.
was
I
born in
never knew
Berlin.
that.
My dad.
But you're born in Berlin, like, as an American citizen because of the military. Right.
For some reason, you get to claim it's American soil if it's a
And,
base.
and with that said, now, just because I'm naive, I don't know, does that garnish you any sort of German benefit?
No, I wish. I've been wanting
Right.
to move to Berlin to
Or
go to
just
school
visit
and
or
stuff.
something. Right?
Yeah,
But so if you're born military in a different country, that other country, you have no benefits. From
no
that other country.
benefits.
Gotcha.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how long were you in Berlin for?
Till I was 5.
You were in Berlin long enough to like.
Oh yeah,
grow
I
up-
remember quite a bit of it.
Really?
Still, yeah. I remember weird things, like I was there during Desert Storm, so I remember like my apartment complex being surrounded by tanks for a day. Like,
Holy
there were
shit,
terrorist
Sarah.
threats and stuff. My preschool had terrorist threats. Yeah, I remember my mom being like really afraid that my dad was going to go off to Desert Storm, but he was like too important in Berlin.
Right.
So he
His
didn't-
role in
yeah.
whatever the base was there
Yeah.
was something that couldn't be replaced.
He speaks fluent Russian, so I'll let you think what he
Oh my
was
god.
up to there. Yeah.
Oh, he's former KGB. That's crazy. Did you process that as a kid? Like tanks? Like what that meant?
I think as a kid you only can like draw from the reactions of your elders. So like seeing my mom
very
like
poignant, yeah.
looking out of a window
Like
and
the
crying.
like the fear is trained, so to
Mhm.
speak, or the fear is
Mhm.
learned. And so you were there until you were 5.
I was there till I was 5.
So like, did you have like childhood friends that
my
were there? That
God, I have my friend Neil that I'm still friends with.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Neil
So-
is a crazy story because we were babies and we went like to church and sleepovers together in Berlin, and then my family got stationed in Sierra Vista or in Fort Chica, and then we lived in Sierra Vista up until I was 19. I was there.
So that was where you kind of like became an adult.
Neil and his family moved there when he was in second grade, and then they left and they came back in high school. And then my family, my mom and my stepdad now live in San Antonio. Neil lives in Austin, so I see him all the time. I saw him last week. He came down to LA.
So you moved to Arizona from Berlin, and mom and dad are still together?
No, they split up when I was 7, and my mom remarried pretty quickly. She quickly remarried to my stepdad Alan. They're still together, and that they are.
Do you have a good relationship with Alan?
Yeah, Alan's great. We had a rocky time like in my childhood and teenage years because he is like, my mom calls the shots and he like makes sure things are followed through.
Right.
So my mom and I did not get along.
Oh, okay.
So I liked him, but then I also was just like, we're not people that can live together.
Fair.
And,
okay.
But Alan's a really great guy, and he levels my mom out as much as she can be leveled out.
Right. And so so if they split up when you were 7, who'd you live with?
I lived with them, and then, or my mom,
Right,
and then I saw my dad on the weekends.
Right.
And
so they stayed close then, like not close personally, but close in proximity, physical
Yeah,
distance.
my dad stayed like in the Sierra Vista tiny town area, and then my mom moved a few miles out to Hereford, which is like horse country. Everybody has like 4 acres of land. Or
sounds delightful.
It's great when you're a teenager.
Grass is always greener. Oh yeah, right. Of course.
You live 15 miles away from town.
Right.
You know,
it's like you want to go to the movies. Well, we have to leave 3 hours to go. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is like I live so far away, but just coming here from Hollywood to Burbank takes as long as it does to go
right.
15 miles on an empty street. You know?
True. Good point. So was the relationship with your parents super copacetic? Like between the two of them, I mean?
The two of them were like, it's interesting because I think my mom has like borderline personality disorder, you know?
Sure.
Which is basically like you're stunted as like a teenager and you lash out and have temper tantrums and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But my dad and her, as much as they were like not meant to be married, they were very respectful and really, really great about being divorced. And if they had disagreements, it was like behind closed doors, which was awesome.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because that's so traumatizing. And unfortunately, my stepsister, I'm going to go see her get married. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh shit.
Yeah, she gets married this weekend. Her mom and Alan did not have the same relationship.
Gotcha.
Her mom remarried and had that man, had her kids call that man dad,
right?
While dad is still in the
Forced
picture.
it, yeah.
Moved them all over the country, just I think to fuck with Alan, so they could just be like their own family. They like really tried to push him out, and so Alan was like, "Your dad is your dad. I love you. I'm like your cool friend, your stepdad. You respect me. You follow my rules, but like your dad's your dad.
Right.
He's a great guy.
Well, that's
it was really
admirable.
like I'll give him credit where credit's due for that.
Is your stepsister your only sibling?
No, I have an older brother. He's 10 years older than me.
Oh.
My mom had him when she was 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's your half sibling.
He's my half brother.
Right. Yeah. So same thing with me. Like I'm technically an only child, but I have a ton of half siblings because my parents met. They both had other kids, so it's kind of similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever like hear about people that like live by birth order, and you're like, I couldn't
live by birth order? No, what do you mean?
There's like these books on like the kind of it's almost like its own astrology of like, well, the firstborn needs, like leadership, and it has these personality traits, and it's this because the parent expected this out of him, and it's like astrology with more like logic to it,
Okay.
And some people like really swear by it, but for me, it's like, well, for a while I was the baby because I lived with my brother, then he moved out, so then my stepsister came in the picture, so for a while I was the oldest, but then she would like get shipped off for an entire school year, so I was the only kid, and then for a while do I fall in the middle? I never lived with both of them, like I have no idea.
And so was there anything about kind of where you landed that made you into like the ham that you are? Would you admit you're a ham? Can I call you that? Am I allowed to call you that?
The performing streak of me, the creativity, I think came out of what I like am afraid that kids today won't get, of just sheer boredom. Like, I will, for first off, like I always knew I wanted to and I'm looking back now and I'm like, I think I always wanted to direct.
Really?
But yeah.
Because I wouldn't have I didn't even know that that's the thing that you're really interested in now.
Well, the show you love so much, The Best Friend Show, I directed that.
True.
I knew like I wanted to be part of the creative process. And so for a while, like you label that like, okay, I want to be an actress.
Right.
Because that's like the first thing that you learn as a kid, like the actors do it. And then,
well, that's also the first thing you see.
But like when I look back now, the first way I remember doing anything creative, and this is in Berlin, is my parents would do the read me like stories before I went to bed, and I was like, no, I want to act these out. And so I would cast them and I would direct how we did it, and like I would, my mom's the princess tonight, Jacob, you're the evil witch.
Wait, is Jacob your brother?
Mm-hmm.
You have a brother named Jake?
I've told you this. I call him,
I don't always listen when you
sometimes
talk.
I call him Jakey.
Oh yeah, that was my name. I got Jakey. I never had a brother named Jake. Maybe that's why. Maybe we have like a sibling thing. Maybe that's why we have like that sort of like sibling. Yeah. Like we deep down we love each other, but we're always sort of competing.
You are constantly giving me noogies.
Truth. Well, don't eat all my friggin' my Cheetos. We won't have that problem. I was trying to think of a thing that siblings would have a problem with, and that was what I came up with. That was my failed brain.
Don't eat my Cheetos.
Don't eat my Cheetos, sis. Now we know why I had to stop doing improv. Anyways,
that's my initiation for every scene.
Yeah.
Hey, stop eating my Cheetos, sis.
Every time you guys do a show and you guys, can I get a suggestion from the audience on a place? I'm like, a Cheetos factory. It's all I have. By the way, you know the funniest thing about me bringing up Cheetos? If I could sidebar this just to tell you this god awful story. It's funny that I thought of Cheetos because I literally went on a Cheetos commercial audition last week.
Oh, cool.
It was actually a callback. They totally loved me, like for the first audition. And then I'm in the callback, and I overhear the woman running the assistant, the casting assistant who's running the whole spiel. And I hear her say like, blah, 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 yeah, so I'm from Long Island. And then I kind of perk up and I go, oh, did you say you're from Long Island? She goes, yeah, you too? And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Long Island. She's like, where are you from? I'm like, Deer Park. She's like, no shit. She's like, how old are you? I'm like, 34. She's like, hang on a second. So she brings me into like the casting director's like private office thing. She's like, hey, do you know this person? And like that was, and I walk in, I'm like, what? This is an awkward way to meet. And it's this woman, Jana, who's delightful. And although we don't know each other because she went to private school, she's literally from my hometown, and we have all mutual friends.
Oh wow!
And so so now I'm like, oh, I got this. Like they like me. I'm a hometown boy, and I'm chatting up a storm. Finally, they're like, all right, yeah, we're ready. So they bring me in, and she told the casting associate, she was like, oh, why don't you, before I go in, she's like, why don't you go in and introduce him? So I got like a special introduction. I was like, oh, I am going to kill this. This is easy. I've totally got this part. I go in. I could not have tanked this worse, Sarah.
Oh, no.
I literally said the name of a competing product.
Did you say Doritos?
No, I said Cheez-Its. But I think I got points at least for like the self-awareness of how bad it was going, because I was constantly cracking jokes of like, oh, it's not like I said a competitor's name or anything like that. Like I was doing that sort of very anyways, Cheetos, sorry. So with that, did not hear from them again. Fun.
We all need our Larry David moments.
Oh, that's my whole life. Anyways, so you would cast these fantastic little shows in your room.
Yeah. And then in Arizona, same thing. We lived in the middle of nowhere, and so when I would visit my dad on the weekends, my childhood best friend Vanessa, who is Paul's in love with, he's met her. He's like in love with her. We would go around the block, and I'd slip invitations to a show that I was going to put on my driveway, and we just improvise, bullshit for people.
That's fantastic.
And put on plays.
Like, how old are you at this age? At this point,
7, 8.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was always the thing, and I didn't realize until later, like, oh, more like creating is more of the thing. Right. For acting, like I'm at a place now where I'm like, I want to do like live shows, and I want to do stuff that I want to do, but I don't want to do like the whole. Yeah, I'll like lose weight and make sure I like look perfect for this audition.
Yeah,
where
you don't want to do the fucking Cheetos audition that I just had to go through.
I do want to do that. Any chance to eat Cheetos on?
But I get it, and it's interesting though. So it sounds to me like you sort of, the acting was sort of out of necessity for the desire to do other things, which is so inverse to me, because like all I ever wanted to do is act, and I found like, well, if I want to act, then I have to direct, I have to do all this other crap, I have to create my own shit. So it's like we're very sort of inverse of each other as far as like the thing that we're doing versus the reason we're doing it.
Yeah.
So if you lived, so you were a total country bumpkin then. I don't think I ever really knew this about you. Like, where did you get, what were you watching? What was your inspiration as a kid?
Well, I had the benefit of having my dad who, he's different now. But as a kid, he was just like the perfect father to foster like a creative mind. And so I grew up watching Fawlty Towers and all the Naked Gun movies and like the black and white movies and stuff.
Okay.
And then with my mom, she loved watching like old black and white movies. And there were just periods where the cable would be shut off. She'd be like, no, it's school year. You're not going to have cable. And so she was very strict, but out of that and out of not having a smartphone or internet, like, what are you going to do? You're going to go outside and you're going to be creative and you're going to.
So you said that your play previously was stemmed off of a children's book, picture book. Were you like a reader as a young teen or preteen too? Were you like
as a big reader? I would write scripts. I had I think every young child
scripts, not books.
I would write books and scripts.
Because I say that's interesting to me. Because you're the second person who said to me recently that like, oh yeah, when I was little, I used to write scripts for things. And I was like, I don't think I ever had the wherewithal. Like I would write a story. I didn't think I had the wherewithal to be like, oh, this is a script.
Oh no, I would write screenplays.
That's fantastic.
But I would write them the same way I write them now, where I would start them and not finish them. Some
things never change.
Make it habits, yeah. But you always like. I think you do parodies of movies that you liked, and so I was all about like Indiana Jones as a kid. I was like, I am Indiana Jones, the female version. So I wrote Liliana Jones. And that's Indiana Jones's niece, and she gets to go on adventures with him. Basically, what Shia LaBeouf got to do, but like less shitty. And then I wrote Star Wars Episode 3 when I was in 7th grade, and that was so much better than the actual one.
What? So when you're in 7th grade, where has the prequels come out yet?
The prequels came out, and I was like, I could make these better.
so 1 and 2 were already out, and you were like, oh, I'm gonna do 3 for them.
Yeah.
There's like a sense of understanding there that I don't think a lot of people have at 7 years old. I sure the hell no, I didn't have like I'm writing short stories and that sort of stuff and like being creative those ways. But to be like, oh, there's this thing that exists and I'm gonna like that's some pretty heady stuff for a kid.
Yeah, it was like I and even now when I get frustrated, I'm like rent's too expensive and I'm still working at my part-time job to make ends meet and where's it gonna go?
Artist stuff, yeah.
But like where's it gonna go? I'm still just like there's literally nothing else I've ever wanted to do. I don't know what else I would do. So now I kind of like, well, I'm kind of stuck out here because I got to make it happen.
Aside from that, going back to, because you mentioned it in passing, I don't know if if you're willing to expand on it. You said your dad at one point was like really showed you all of this fun stuff, and he was like a really good father for kind of fostering your creative interests and stuff like that. Like what changed? What do you mean by that? Not so much anymore.
He went to, so he didn't go to Desert Storm, but when 9/11 happened, he was in the reserves because he did leave the military a little bit earlier than he should have to like stay in and get the retirement and all of that. So he joined back up to like kind of complete that. And so he's in the reserves and they're the first activated. Yeah. So 9/11 happened and he was 3rd Infantry. And he was already late 40s, maybe early 50s.
Yeah.
So he went to Iraq.
As an infantry, that's very old. I mean, not that that's incapable, but that's just...
It's old.
I'm sure he's with a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah. He went over...
Where was he deployed to? Do you know?
Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You don't know specifically where, though?
No, I don't. And his behavior had started to be kind of erratic before that, like a little bit. Like maybe he was already going through some sort of change.
Was this his first time? Because you said you guys were stationed in Berlin, and he was clearly working on the base, but this is his first like combat stuff.
Yeah. So he went over there, and then unfortunately he did 2 tours, and they were like 16 months each. And by the time he was back, I was a senior in high school, and he was like, you're too old to have weekends anymore. And I was like, you've just been gone to war. I don't think so.
Right.
And he just...
Yeah, at that point, you said 18 months each?
Like 14 to 16 months each.
So I'm trying to do the math. That's almost 3 years. Yeah. Essentially, we're two and change.
Yeah.
So he really missed... And this is not... I'm not saying this in a bad way. Like, he missed, like, it's his fault. But I'm just saying, through unfortunate circumstances, he missed really formative years. Because from the time that you're a freshman to the time that you're a senior, that is a completely different You know what I mean? That's like, that's growing up. That's when, like, you come out
Yeah.
of high school, quote, an adult. I would admit that I didn't, but that's, you're supposed to anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely have a sense of self. So you had that sort of without dad around.
So yeah, he came right at the kind of like the peak years of my performing in high
Right,
school too.
yeah,
Of like
sure.
I was like the lead in the musical, and I was like,
Sure.
come see it. And like you fostered this, you created this, and it was like the funny thing was like my mom was the one coming with roses and like crying, and my dad
Sure.
was kind of like about it.
Right.
But so
right.
yeah, he came back with a pretty severe case of PTSD.
You were old enough at this point to understand that, like, clearly something has changed.
Oh
in
no,
him.
I was just like, you're a completely different
Yeah.
person. You are not interested in
Did
the-
he ever? Did he
your
ever?
daughter.
Did he ever try to get any help, or did you guys ever urge him to get any assistance?
He voluntarily went into an institution for a little bit, and then the unfortunate thing
like
is
a live-in institution, like a straight-up psychiatric
Mhm.
institution. Wow.
and then the unfortunate thing is like they get you real pumped up and angry, and you go to war, and you see a lot of fucked up things, especially like children strapping bombs.
Sure,
You see
sure.
really awful things.
Did he ever share with you some of those things?
He shared with me a few things that he saw, but it didn't sound like he killed anyone. But
Right.
he
Well,
was
and
driving.
I'm not asking for details. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If the relationship was that sort of thing where this is how I feel about where I was and what I saw, or did he kind of protect you from that?
So the thing that was also really beautiful about my relationship with my dad is that he did level with me, and he always spoke to me like an
So
equal.
he spoke to like
always.
See, that's fantastic.
My dad was a very intellectual man and a very compassionate, patient person, which is, I'm not gonna say the opposite of my mom. Being patient and being empathetic
Right.
is the opposite of my mom.
Gotcha.
And so it was like he was my touchstone. He was my sanity growing up. But when he got back, it was just a disconnect. It was like he was unplugged,
Right.
and so there was
There was like a facet of him missing.
yeah.
Right.
And so the things he would tell me, he was now impatient with. He was now
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
he took a step more towards what you assimilated to your mother.
yeah, and we just stopped, the visiting stopped happening, and it was a reason like my mom kind of tricked me into going to community college in Sierra Vista, even though I was like, I want to go to art school, and
Oh,
she was
yeah.
like, no, fuck you. For a long time, the dynamic with my mom was her controlling me. So,
oh, gotcha.
yeah.
She wanted you to stay close for her.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and allegedly to save money, but cool. I haven't done anything with the 2 years of community college I went
Did you
to.
finish? Did you
No.
finish? Yeah, neither did I.
I did it. Out of like anger. I didn't. And which
Really?
now I'm just like, well, that's great.
But honestly, did it matter? Does it matter? Has
Doesn't
there
matter,
been a thing in
no.
your life you're like, geez, I wish I would have finished?
Every once in a while, I'm like, hey, it'd be nice to just like have a degree,
Yeah, I
to.
guess.
And the one thing I have done for myself is I have been like, well, I'm going to read all the fucking required reading for college students. I got all the books. I'm
Yeah,
gonna-
I'm also like I dropped out after 2.5 semesters, and it was because I didn't take anything I needed to take to even get my liberal arts degree. Like I went to Suffolk County Community College, and I just took electives. I just took shit I wanted to learn.
Mhm.
So by the time I was done with like 2.5 semesters, they were like, "Oh, you still need to come for like another 2 years in order to get it." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
fine." Yeah, so your relationship with your father became sort of stunted
Yeah.
in that sense, and did that ever make you sort of step away from like the desire to be creative? Like, was there any sort
Oh
of
man, it fucked me up bad for a long time. Like
Yeah.
it was just like it's the worst breakup you can have in your life.
Right.
Like this is my one. Really, to me, it's like this is my one person that like gets me. This is
shit? Yeah.
and I relied so much on his heart and compassion and wisdom, and then like for that to be gone, I struggled so hard. And I know like
At an age too, where like when you feel something, you feel it 200%.
yeah.
Like that must have been tough.
Yeah, and I let it be like a creative roadblock for me. Of like
Right.
I don't write the volume that I used to write, and I don't write.
Right, that kind of stuff.
It has been a roadblock for me, and so like yeah, like I've been in therapy for a while
How
now,
long-
and I've been working through stuff, and like hey, I'm gonna keep writing, but
Well, so let me ask you a question. How long Is that sort of where everything still stands? Like, is he still sort of, you guys still estranged? Is he
We are the way we're always going to be now. And a big thing that was like life-saving for me and my mom, it was for me to go like, okay, I accept her. She will never be like the mom that I want.
Yeah, that's...
and with my dad, I refused to do that. Like, no. Like, I had this thing. I want this connection, this relationship back. And I would like blame the drugs he was on because they put him on like antipsychotics for a while, and
yeah.
they just
numb him.
they just shut them the fuck down, and now it's like I went back to Sierra Vista, and I was like on a mission. I'm like, I'm gonna get to the root of these things, because every time I've been around him, I've tried to like dig and get something out of him, or get you just want to hear the words you want to hear,
right?
And so 2 years ago, I went there and I was like, okay, it's going to be different this time. I'm going to get it. And I was supposed to stay with him, and he picked me up from the airport. He drove me to a hotel, checked me in. He was like,
geez.
yeah, he has these boundaries. And I was like, fuck, off to this start.
So it's been over a decade now.
It's been over a decade,
right?
yeah.
And how often do you see him within that decade?
Once every 2 years, maybe.
Oh, it's that infrequent. Oh my God.
And I hear from him just on like major milestones, really.
Right.
And there was times where like I wouldn't hear from him on Christmas or my birthdays either,
right.
And I was like, okay, we're just gonna be done. I'm gonna cut him off.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Right back. But so 2 years ago, I went to Sierra Vista, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the answers I need. And I was journaling the entire time, like each day that I was there.
Right.
And I was lucky enough that Neil was also in town at the same time, visiting his mom in town.
Right, your
so
friend
I had
from Berlin.
Yeah, we had
Right.
each other, and his mom has issues as well.
Okay.
So we got to be there for each other and check in. And then one day I went over and to my dad's house. We're gonna have dinner, and my dad was like, I'm gonna go pick up pizza. So I just sat with his wife Julie, and Julie's a really nice lady. But since I don't see my dad, I also don't see her, and we don't
Right.
talk on our own,
Yeah,
really.
You just don't have like a relationship.
No. And so we sat together, and she opened up to me, and she was like, I hope you don't feel like any of this is my doing. I always wanted to talk to you.
Oh, well,
And
that's
finally,
great.
it was the conversation that I actually needed to have for closure, because I was never going to get anything out of him that was going to satiate this like hunger for answers,
Right.
and this like desire to have my father back the way it was. He's never going to be
Sure.
back. I needed to hear somebody
Shit.
else say, my dad. Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because I can empathize with this, but yeah.
I needed to hear somebody else say, this is also not the person I married.
Right.
Things are also different from me.
Totally.
I live with a stranger in the house, but I love him, and he's still the best person
And like
I've ever
that's
met.
the fact that she stuck with him through all of that. I mean, that's not to take anything away from your plight as his daughter, but that's a whole different struggle.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you guys garnished any more of a relationship ever since that conversation?
I think that like it used to be when I would visit, and this is really fucked up. He would only give me like a lunch. Like if
Okay.
I'd come to town,
Right. That was what you got.
he'd be like,
You
yeah,
got
I'll visit you for
your
lunch.
visit lunch. Yeah.
And sit and talk. Okay, like catch me up. Okay, bye.
Right.
And now she comes
And
to the lunches.
so she's sort of
Yeah.
connecting that, the two of you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Also, she's maybe sort of kind of acting like your window to him in a way.
Yeah, and there was one instance where I was telling her, like, I went down for my friend Libby's bridal shower, and I was like, Dad, I'll be in Tucson. It's, an hour away. Like, let's grab lunch. And he was like, yes. And of course he canceled on me the morning of, because that's what he
Sure.
does. And she was like, oh, I didn't know about that. You talk to me directly next time. I'll get his ass to go
Right.
see you.
So that's great. So I mean, she's essentially his handler for you at this point. Like,
Yeah. And it's not that like he doesn't want to. It's that I think he's in such an isolation mode, and he's
Right.
in such a. And I get that way when I'm sad. I isolate.
so there might be a trait then.
Oh, sure.
that-
I mean, I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at was like there might be something in your personalities that when struck with this, he handled it to the extreme of that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see other than that? Do you see any of him in yourself?
Oh, yeah. And I wish I saw more of him in me. I mean, this
Oh.
guy has like a photographic memory, like
Right.
actually photographic memory. He's the smartest person I've ever met. He's fucking way funnier than me. I mean, back
Yeah,
when
of
he was
course.
really.
I mean, just to take two steps back. Oh my gosh, like a photographic memory, and to experience wartime. like that can't help.
Jesus, yeah.
Those,
wow,
like,
I haven't even thought about it that way.
Honestly,
Jesus
like
Christ.
if he's the kind of person who really remembers finite details, then
wow, yeah,
the sort of
I
thing
never
that you
connected
want to
that.
forget. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
imagine the things he wants to forget. Oh gosh, Sarah.
And funny enough, he didn't tell me this when I was a kid. While he was like fostering and nurturing my creativity, I knew that he was in radio. I
Right.
did not know he moved out to Los Angeles to be an actor.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You found this out recently?
I found this out when I was like 18, 19 years
so you
old.
found
My
that-
aunt told me. And I was like,
And he did that when he was a kid.
he did that when he was right out of Michigan State. Him and his best friend, they were a comedy duo. They were the Professionals. And they did improv together, sketch together.
This is
and they did a
amazing.
radio show. They did radio
Do
comedy.
you have any
I have a
copies of the
flyer.
radio?
No. I think my aunt might have something. I'm trying to get it from her.
Yes, that is a must get.
But it gets crazier. They moved out here together, lived for a year. My dad did this is a trait of his that I'm like, okay, I'm never going to keep this. He did I'm done.
Oh, okay.
I'm out of money. I'm done. Then he joined the military.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, I mean, it was a very different time.
yeah.
Like nowadays, we all act like we're doing something brave. Like, oh, we're gonna sacrifice. When in actuality, like, there's nothing on the line. Like we're all guppies compared to that generation.
Right.
And the amount of societal pressure, like we are given, like we're told chase your dreams. We're told flex your wings and all that cliche bullshit that some white girl puts on her Instagram.
I mean, from society, definitely not from my mom.
No. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's society. Yeah, good point. But in any case, like back then, even giving it a year is probably like, what do you like? Could you imagine the amount of pressure that they probably got?
Yeah. So he gave up, but
God, that's crazy.
he wanted to, like, I wish he just kept doing radio and kept doing stuff. He's so fucking good. But he left. His best friend stayed. His best friend, Paul, looked up who he is from the flyer I have
Right.
that my aunt gave me. He hosts the Comedy Store and he's a radio DJ still. And I've every stand-up friend I've asked, maybe you'll know him too, Frazer Smith.
Yes.
That's my dad's best friend.
Your dad and Frazer Smith were a comedy duo.
Yeah, and moved out here together.
Have you reached out to Frazer?
I had a stand-up friend of mine reach out to him, and I got them reconnected because my dad was like, I thought he was dead. And so my dad, who's never visited me in Los Angeles the entire time I've ever been here, he's like, I'm going to come out and visit you and Frazer.
Wait, so that hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet.
Sarah, this might be like, I'm not going to get your hopes up, but like, this is just in my brain. If this is the movie I'm writing, your story, like, honestly, like, this is like cracks the whole thing open for me. Like, the fact that your father once had an interest in the entertainment industry, in comedy specifically, in essentially the lifestyle that you're currently leading. Like, do you think that in any way, shape, or form, this could be sort of the catalyst for him opening back up to you? I mean, who knows? Maybe that could be something that really
That's
helps.
been one of my biggest goals of like, I want to write and produce something and then be able to actually cast it in something. Like you remember the great horrible thing that happened when I switched my computer over, that computer you gave me, and all my scripts were lost.
Oh, that's right. You lost like all of your work.
Everything, yeah. Which is like, obviously should have had it on a backup drive. Now I do.
Right.
But there's a horror movie I was writing where I had my dad as like this head of this like mental institution and stuff.
Oh,
so it was like,
interesting.
yeah,
That's
well,
interesting. A little.
it's a
method
monster
there. Yeah.
film though. It's a monster film.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. It's a little more
But-
cartoony. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to do some
but like
on the cliff
in
stuff.
I try to write little parts. So I'm like, if this was ever picked up, like I could put my dad in this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's something that you think he would be like
Oh,
gung ho about.
so last month is the last time I saw my dad. We went to a mini family reunion, just
Right.
like small room of people, and he brought up to me because one of the things we did when we were in Sierra Vista, he would wake me up at like 5 a.m. on a Saturday and drive me up to Tucson for acting lessons,
Right.
and of course it's just like cold reading commercials and
Sure.
paying someone for it.
Of course.
And he is now like interested in maybe acting in Tucson. Like, oh, I'm thinking because he retired from this teaching position he had at
That's
this
so-
high
I mean,
school.
And honestly, I think that could be such a great step to open him up, not just to you, but to the world around
Yeah.
him. Because I can only assume that the closed offness that you get is
Oh yeah, he
universal.
lives in the middle of nowhere, and he goes into town to like get a book and food. That's it.
Wow. Well, I really hope that comes to fruition. just a slight kind of sidebar. Does your mother urge a relationship with your father, or is she sort of like, well, if he's not talking to you, or if he doesn't, is she sort of that sort of hands off?
Oh, yeah. She was actually one of the places where I was like, wow, she can be a supportive person was with this, because she was there and she saw what a strong bond we had. And even though it made her jealous most of my youth, she was like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened. And Alan, being Alan, is like, did you call your dad?
Right, stepdad.
Did you call your dad? Oh, he's so great. Did you give your dad a call? Make sure you reach out to him, and you should visit him in Silverstone. Like,
right.
So yeah, there's he is supported.
That's at least good, because again, I can only speak from my own experiences. And although my mother was always like, I'll tell you about your dad because you should know, in the same breath, and she probably won't admit this, she really made it a point to let me know that she fucking hated him and that he was an awful human being. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's that whole thing of like, when you're a kid, what your parents say is the law. You know what I mean? Like, you don't question. So it's great that you had, like, that your mom and your stepfather at least, like, well, push you towards that. Because I had that as well. I had like certain family members that were like, oh, you should have a relationship with him. And then certain family members that were like, fuck him, he doesn't deserve you. And I was like, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
But if all you're getting is one or the other in mass extremes, it's not entirely healthy. But
yeah.
With that said, we got on the whole father tangent, which is great, because honestly, that's the more important stuff. But I do want to talk a little bit more with you kind of about your endeavors, artistic endeavors. And I want to just talk more about, hell, actually, I kind of want to talk more about the daddy issues, if I'm being totally honest.
Hey, it's shaped a lot of my fucking 20s, I'll tell you that.
Ditto. Will you come back chat with me again sometime soon?
Absolutely.
So, Sarah, you are the co-host of Mythunderstood on this very podcast network, which is the show that you do with your bestie, Paul, where Paul teaches you about Greek mythology, because he is like this Greek mythology whiz.
He is.
And you have this strong interest in it, but admittedly never researched it.
No.
You're like, oh, this sounds really great. Hope somebody teaches it to me one day.
I was living in the boonies. I was playing outside.
Yeah, right. Cut to now. You have this fantastic show. You guys are about 4 episodes in, 2 months in, or something like that. You do it every other week. Every other Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. See, every other Wednesday. So everybody should definitely tune into that. You can find that at mythunderstoodpodcast.com, correct?
Mm-hmm.
As well as on all the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all that stuff.
_Mythunderstood.
There you go. So with that said, also, how do people find you and your stuff? What do you want to put out there? Put your stuff out.
You can find me on Facebook, Sarah Oliver. I'm the not gross one from Bad Girls Club. That's not me.
Wait, what?
So when I got my stage name, I looked it up through SAG, and I was like, we're in the clear. Great. And I registered with SAG.
Right.
And then I went to YouTube, and I was like, I've made a huge mistake.
So there's another Sarah Oliver.
Oh, and she is loud and proud, and not going to shame her, but I'm
going to shame her.
Not most those pictures aren't me if it's from behind.
All right, so there you go. It's Sal Oliver on Facebook, and you're not a big Twitter or social.
I'm on Instagram and Twitter. The Sarah Oliver on Twitter. I only hit retweet because I'm just so angry politically right now. That's it. I only tweet at Donald Trump and just tell him to fucking die.
I love it.
That's it.
Absolutely love it. Well, as always, please follow me on Twitter at LiquidJake, as well as follow It's Dragon Wagon on all social media. What's super important right now is that if you're listening to the show and you're enjoying it, please leave us a review on iTunes. It's so incredibly important. That's how new listeners will find the show organically. Until we have a certain amount of ratings and reviews, we won't really be on any sort of charts or any sort of search. It's going to take a while, unless you're looking for us by name, which, let's be honest, unless you are specifically given us as a referral, you're not going to find us. So that's where those reviews come into play. With that said, if you enjoy the show, suggest it to somebody. Please throw it out there. Also, reach out to us if you have any questions or if you want to share your stories. I would love to hear them. If you have something similar or something that you empathize or sympathize with between me or one of my guests, please reach out to us. Use the hashtag #ElaboratePod. I have gotten some really fantastic direct messages from people via Twitter and that sort of stuff, Sarah, but I want that, I want the community.
Yeah.
I just need validation. Anyways, Sarah, thank you so much. I love you, lady.
Love you.
Hey, everybody, I'm sitting down real quick with my good friend Zen Zenith. Hey, Zen.
Where am I?
Where are you? You are on an episode of Elaborate in a fantastic little segment we call a commercial.
Oh, this is really nice. I like what you've done with the place.
Appreciate it. I try.
So I think I'm here to talk about my podcast.
You're here to talk about a fantastic show called The House Show Show.
Right. Yeah. So the House Show is the podcast I host. It's a live concert and event series. So the whole thing is recorded live. We have a little audience there. And what happens is I have guest singer-songwriters join me, and they play some songs in sort of an intimate setting. And I sit down and talk to them. And then we do a Q&A with the audience. And it's a lot of fun.
So it's like storytellers meets Unplugged meets a fantastic live podcast.
Right. It's like the Moth Story Hour meets Late Night with Seth, whatever his last name is.
Sure,
meets The Nerdist.
I love it.
Your favorite hang in your favorite living room.
And I am a massive music nerd. This totally speaks to me. There's nothing I love more than live music, and there's nothing I love more than live music in a really intimate setting. It really is a fantastic show, I must
Then
say.
you are going to love this. You can check it out online at thehouseshowshow.com, or we're also available on iTunes and Stitcher.
Fantastic, bud. I hope everybody checks it out.
Me too. That would be rad.
It's Dragon Wagon.